Hello everybody and welcome to That's Football. Why are Liverpool title contenders? I want to get into this. I'm also got a really good section on Spurs at the end that is very impressive. So look, the title race is open. Man City lost at the weekend to Arsenal. Arsenal and Man City are title contenders. Who from the rest can be with them this season? And I want to explain why I think Liverpool are a team to watch. And there's a little shout out for Spurs as well towards the end. This is backed up on stats. There's some incredible stuff in here. I'm not massively into stats, but there's certain things at this stage of the season that you can start to look at and go, right, you can't lie, you can't argue with that. So we're going to talk about Liverpool. Now, what I would say from the start is I've said many a time over recent weeks that Jurgen Klopp does not get the credit he deserves for rebuilding a midfield. He's rebuilt that midfield over one summer. And most teams can't do that. So you look at what Pep's done. He's gone from Gundogan to Kovacic. It might work, it might not work, and it would be a reason they don't win the league if they don't win the league. And that's replacing one player. So replacing Fabinho, Henderson and Thiago in one summer and then being considered a title contender in October is incredible from Klopp. But that's a statement. Not many people are making that statement. That's not necessarily the reason I think they can be title contenders. But what about that statement backs it up, Goldbridge? Well, I would say this. It's about work rate from Liverpool this season. When you look at their pressing action and their challenge intensity, they're not in the top five. That's you think about Liverpool when they were winning titles, suffocating teams. They're not there yet in relation to that. But where they are there is in relation to work rate. They've got more red cards than anybody in the league at the moment. They're in the top 5 for defensive duels. When you look at the top 20 players in the Premier League so far for defensive duels, Alexis Mac Allister is in the top 5 and Szoboszlai is in the top 20 with Jota for defensive duels. That's work rate. You don't find Rodri in the top 5. You don't find Casemiro or Declan Rice in the top 5. You're talking about Bournemouth players, Polina at Fulham. You're talking about Robinson at Fulham. You're talking about Yates at Forest. You're talking about Semedo at Wolves. You're talking about Mikalenko at Everton. You're talking about Jensen at Brentford. And you're talking about Kamara at Villa. Pedro Porro at Spurs. This is not, when I say top 20 players for defensive duels, it ain't your traditional Declan Rice or anything like that. It's real graft that goes on at the bottom half of the table with people like Forest players and Luton players and Brentford players. And yet Alexis Mac Allister, Szoboszlai and Jota are in there. And they've got the most red cards. And I think this is something that I look at Liverpool and say, I don't want them to win the league. I'm a Man United fan. I want them to get relegated. And beyond that rivalry, I look at Liverpool and I go, well, they really are a team that it might be too soon for them to go for a title. But then you look at the things that they've improved on very, very quickly and you go, they could be a contender. They could be a contender. I mean, look, I don't want to talk about the VAR mistake that would have given them another point or 3, and I don't want to disrespect Spurs because we're going to talk about them in a moment, but what Klopp has done is incredible. He has rebuilt that midfield and then he's got that midfield competing like Forest and Luton and Brentford, who have to compete for their lives, and Liverpool are doing that. And the stats back it up. And it's absolutely incredible what they're doing. They've also got the know-how. That's very, very important. They have the know-how on how to perform as a team that's won the league. That's what people like Salah and Van Dijk can do. And also, let me just mention, again, another thing that's underrated in my opinion. You look at Mo Salah, you look at key passes, you look at assists, you look at goals, he's right up there again. And that's really important from a Liverpool point of view, because obviously you need that superstar in the team if you want to be a team that's going to go for titles. And that's exactly what Liverpool, we're talking about, Liverpool potentially can do. As I said at the start, one of the things that you might expect from Liverpool would be that they would be in the top 5 for things like possession and pressing statistics, which they're not. They're actually quite close to Manchester United in the mid-table area for that across the league. But I think that's something that maybe will come or maybe won't come. Defensively, they're conceding more goals slightly than you would expect because there's been a couple of mistakes there. But expected goals, Liverpool are top of the league in relation to stats. So expected goals, which is worked out on stats and algorithms I can't be asked to get into, the top 5 for expected goals in the Premier League this season are Liverpool, Brighton, Everton, God knows what's going on there, Tottenham and Manchester City. So you've got a team that's working ridiculously hard, especially in that new midfield area. You've got a team that's got a player in Mo Salah that is right at the top of the stats for goals, assists and key passes. So he's contributing across all areas. And then you've got it as a team, they've got more expected goals than anybody else in the league. And in addition to that, taking it away from stats, they've won at Newcastle. They've been to Chelsea and got a result. They've obviously had that Spurs game that was hard on them. They beat Aston Villa as well. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. They haven't had a particularly easy start to the season, and it's been relatively tough. They've got 4 very winnable games coming up. I think if they win those I think sometimes you look at the league table and you look at what Man City have got and what Chelsea have got in November, December, and you go, that's incredibly hard. We were speaking about Man City yesterday. But the flip side of that coin is you look at Liverpool in their next 4 games and you go, they're all winnable, starting with Everton in a derby. But if you don't win them all and you draw a couple, then you're not a title contender. So that's a massive test for Liverpool now. Can they go and win 4 games in a row? I think with Liverpool, it's difficult to say one way or the other, because I see massive improvement, but I also see some mistakes still there at the back. And it's about whether they're going to keep growing in this season or whether they're going to be a little bit inconsistent this season. But I seriously do think that when you delve a little bit deeper into Liverpool, the improvements that Klopp has made, especially in that midfield, and the work rate, and the fact that they're creating so many chances and their expected goals is so high, scoring goals with hard work. And as I said, the most red cards in the league isn't great, but there's definitely a bite in that Liverpool team. There's definitely, we've got to work hard in that midfield. And I've heard some people say, well, Alexi McAllister hasn't settled in that well. But when you delve into the fact that they're right up there in the league and the work rate that he's putting in, I would completely disagree with that. I want to shout out Spurs. I'm not talking about Arsenal or Man City here, because Arsenal and Man City fans, you don't need a shout out. You were in a title race last year. Arsenal have just beat Man City. Man City are favourites to win the league. You're in a title race. We're talking about, can anybody else be in a title race? And I've explained why I think Liverpool can. I just want to say, in relation to Spurs, I don't know whether this is sustainable for Spurs, but I'm just going to say it anyway. Just throw some stats out there in relation to Spurs and what they're doing. So they've had more shots than anybody else this season. They're top of the stats for shots this season for Tottenham, which, when you think about Mourinho and you think about Conte, that would not be what they're all about. So you've got to applaud that, whether you're a Spurs fan or not. The fact that they've had more shots than anybody this season, look, they might not all be good shots, but they certainly deserve, a shout out for that. But where they really, really hit for me is in this area. It's absolutely incredible what they've done here. Challenge intensity, top 6.8, top. What's challenge intensity, Mark? Challenge intensity is how many defensive actions you do per minute of opposition possession. So 6.8 defensive actions per minute of opposition possession from Spurs puts them top. Second, Brighton. You probably wouldn't be surprised about that. Third, Chelsea. Chelsea are quite interesting. Keep your eye on Chelsea over the next few weeks. They've got some tough games, but the stats aren't bad. They're just not scoring. But now they have started scoring. Bournemouth are actually fourth and Brentford fifth. But then PPDA. You might not know what this is. This is passes allowed per defensive action. So it's very much a pressing stat. And it's a very easy stat to communicate. So basically what it is it's how many passes a team allows the opposition to make before they win the ball back. Spurs are top. 7.8 passes before they win it back. Brighton are second, 8.5. Chelsea again are third, 8.8. And then you've got Arsenal in fourth and Man City in fifth, which it's not surprising that those 5 are there. But what a turnaround from Spurs to go from what they were to most shots in the league, best challenge intensity and best pressing intensity. The question is, can they keep that up? Because if they do, I don't think they go anywhere. But I think Spurs are a watching brief at the moment. Anyway, get your comments in below. What are your thoughts? Can Liverpool challenge for the league? What are your thoughts to Spurs? smash a like on the video. And don't forget, the podcast is out now. Goldbridge Saves Football. It came out today. Give it a listen. More in-depth chat about the title, player of the year so far, relegation. Also, we had a big old Pratt Pundit of the Week was very good this week, getting into the referees again, but also other stuff as well. And a few either-ors in there that created a bit of debate as well. Check it out on the podcast. Listen, links in the description. Thanks everyone for listening. Speak to you all soon.